Here we are in slightly overcast Richmond, and here we have Nikon's brand new Z5 II. Full frame, 24.5 megapixel camera. Let's find out what it's all about. So let's give you some top line specs on the Z5 II. It's a 24.5 megapixel full frame camera. It also shoots 4K RAW internal to the SD that you're using as well. It also has the EXPEED 7 processor from the Z6 III, the Z8 and the Z9, as well as intelligent AI autofocus. So now that I've had about half an hour to walk around with the camera, and as you can probably notice, I don't have a strap on it at all. I've actually just been carrying it like this, and it's actually incredibly comfortable to carry. This really deep grip is phenomenal. You can really wrap your fingers around it. And to be honest with you, even though I don't have a strap, I would happily walk around with this camera all day, even when I'm using the longer lens as well. In terms of handling, button layout and menu, it's classic Nikon. It's all incredibly well thought out, and the years and years of experience in terms of how a camera should handle is evident with this camera. Dedicated ISO button, classic and tried and tested Nikon menu system is really good. Even the accessibility and the default settings on the I menu or the info menu is really good. So let's talk a little bit about this creative picture control button. I really like it because it shows Nikon's commitment to actually putting something in place that actually makes photographers really enjoy the shooting experience. This picture control that you can actually bring up in camera, you can also fully customize sharpness, color, contrast, saturation. So if you actually use Nikon Imaging Cloud, you can actually download other creators' own recipes as well as classic recipes from older film stocks. And the really good thing is that you can actually create them within the Imaging Cloud themselves, download them onto the camera, and then even customize them further in camera, which I think is really cool. So let's talk a bit about the AF. And really what's at the heart of the AF is that incredible EXPEED 7 processor, which is allowing this camera to be as good as it is. Now, what I've noticed in shooting for the last kind of 45 minutes to an hour is how punchy and how snappy that AF is. Now, I have been using a longer lens as well, and it's incredible how good the AF works. Now, the AF is incredibly intelligent. It has 3D tracking across the entire frame, and it has automatically selectable subjects. So you have planes, you have birds, you have animals, you have people. And you can actually set it to auto in case you're not sure what you're going to capture, and it will always do a pretty good job of actually tracking those subjects. Now, in terms of shooting speed, you actually have 3 different modes. If you shoot JPEG, you'll get a full 30 frames a second. Now, in terms of shooting RAW, you have 2 modes. The first one is a compressed RAW, which will give you 14 frames a second. And if you shoot lossless RAW, you will get 11 frames a second. So in terms of ISO performance, it's pretty standard stuff. You get 100 at the low end, all the way to 64,000 at the high end. Obviously, you're not going to shoot that high, or at least if you are, you'll do it very rarely. I would say, like most cameras out there at the moment, they usually top out at somewhere between 3,200 and 6,400 for a clean image. So let's talk a little bit about IBIS. Now, I've just shot this fairly dynamic scene here. It's got a little bit of dark, it's got the building in the back, and obviously it's got the rippling water. Now, Nikon are quoting 7.5 stops, which I think is a tall order. Now, when it comes to IBIS, to me, IBIS is a bonus. I don't think it's there to really disguise bad photographic practice. I think you do have to have your arms tucked into your body to make sure that you have a stabilized shot. It isn't magic. So if you can get anywhere near 7.5 stops, I'll be very pleased. And I can say that for this scene here, with a 35mm lens, I actually managed to get it down to nearly 2 seconds, and that's incredibly impressive. So for a handheld shot, and to actually get that really smooth water, I think it's really impressive. So let's talk a little bit about monitoring. To be honest with you, it's lovely, it's punchy, and it's giving me accurate exposures. That's really all I care about. What's really interesting though is the rear LCD. Now the LCD panel is, as you can see, a vari-angle, so it has pretty much all this range of motion, which is absolutely amazing depending on how you want to shoot. But what's really cool about it is that if you do need to shoot content for socials, for example, all of the data on the back of the screen automatically orientates itself for portrait mode, and it's immediate and it's super responsive, and that's something that I like a lot. Another really cool thing this camera has is something called starlight view, and starlight view is really helpful when you're doing astrophotography. So the camera will do everything it can to actually help you get a correct exposure when you're doing astro, and even running exposures as long as 25 seconds plus. Now obviously don't expect that image in the back of the LCD to actually be perfect. It is going to be grainy as the camera is actually giving you a boost, but the whole point of that is to make your experience shooting astro a little bit quicker and more efficient, just so you can get a correct exposure. So let's give you some slightly beefier video specs on the Z5 II. So you get 4K 60p, and you also get slow motion 120p, but only at full HD. Now obviously it's no secret that Nikon acquired Red, so you actually do have the possibility of actually adding some red LUTs to this camera, not just for monitoring, but also for output. In terms of shooting, you also have the possibility of shooting N-Log and N-RAW internal to the SD. So you also have electronic stabilization that actually works in tandem with IBIS, which is specific to video as well. And another natty little function that the camera has is it has an electronic zoom, which basically allows you to do slow creeps into the image. If you do need some creative control to allow a bit more movement when you're shooting on primes, for example, you can do that. So just to wrap up, after a few hours shooting with this camera, what do I think about it and who is it for? So let's start with who it's for. And it's a tricky one because this camera does so much so well. From the advanced autofocus, which you'd think wildlife, bird photography, even sports, for example, it can actually do really well. But also as a walk-around camera, it's incredibly light. I mean, I've not had a strap with it all day and it's been incredibly comfortable, and also the video specs are great, so it can do a lot of things really well. So it's actually hard to say as to who this camera is for. I think as an enthusiast, I think you'll be extremely satisfied, or someone who basically shoots multi-purpose photography or videography as well. I've really enjoyed my time with the Z5 II. I love the fact that Nikon have really thought everything through, from the comfort and the weight to the functionality and the placement of buttons and the controls. So overall, a really impressive camera. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.